My wife opened up our marriage, so I tried dating her 5 best friends. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. Mara shuts the dishwasher with surgical calm and says, "I want to open our marriage ethically." The hum of the machine is the only applause. I'm Alex, 32, public school teacher, believer in lesson plans and fixed points. Stability is my love language. Predictable paychecks, Friday groceries, the nightly ritual of grading essays while she scrolls. She says this is about honesty and curiosity, about saving us from becoming roommates with shared subscriptions. I ask what ethical means. Mara smiles like a presentation is about to begin. Rules, she says. Fair ones. She has notes on her phone, bullet points, checkboxes. My first feeling is smallness, like I just got curved out of my own home. I don't want to lose her, and I don't want to become the tight-fisted villain of her friend group's progressive myth. The stakes are loud in my head. The lease with both our names, the unit on the second floor that smells like coffee and laundry, the book club couple next door who know us as the cute teachers. She promises compassion, transparency, and a therapist to mediate. My palms sweat onto the table. I say I'll try, if the rules are clear and mutual. Mara exhale laughs, relieved. You'll see, she says. This will make us stronger. Later, alone, I record a voice memo. If we do this, I need logs, not vibes. I don't mean surveillance. I mean receipts, agreements, check-ins, something a teacher can grade. I don't know who will end up watching those receipts unfold on 3 separate phones at a dinner where everything breaks. I only know I'm already counting minutes I can't get back. The rule sheet pings my inbox at 10:41 p.m. The last line of Mara's email lands like a dare I can't ignore. We met 5 years ago at a volunteer shift, sorting donated books by genre. I shelved paperbacks. She arranged hardcovers by color, laughing at my labels. She liked my steadiness then, even said it made her feel safe. Over time, safe calcified into predictable, and predictable calcified into stale. I teach 9th grade English. Mara manages brand partnerships. Her friends are a constellation. Tessa the protector, Nina the sparkler, and the trio, B, J, R, who orbit brunches, rooftop photos, and caption debates. I usually cook. They usually approve. The contempt didn't start as contempt. It was winks about me saying attendance outside school, jokes about me wearing teacher's shoes to a gallery opening. 2 weeks ago at a friend's trivia night, I answered a literature question in one breath and Mara leaned into Nina, stage whispering. He grades people even when he's drinking. The table laughed. I laughed too, late and brittle. On our walk home, I said it stung. She kissed my cheek, drive-by apology, and said, "Don't be sensitive, Alex. You know I'm proud of you." When she says ethical now, I hear performance. Still, I go to therapy with her because I promise to be the man who shows up. Dr. Keller is precise. Fair rules are those both parties could accept forever, even if the other never breaks them. We nod. I scribble that on a note card and tape it inside a kitchen cabinet. Mara takes a photo for our communication wins folder. We are trying. Trying looks good on us from the outside. At drinks that weekend, a casual friend asks how marriage is, and Mara says, "We're redefining." I smile too wide while Nina raises a glass like we just launched a startup. Tessa studies me. I saying, "Are you really okay?" I mouth, "Sure." Mara's phone lights up with a group chat name I don't recognize, and she flips it face down with practiced ease. We draft rules at the dining table like we're writing a syllabus. No close friends, we agree. No overlap. No lying by omission. Full check-ins before and after, written, not just vibes. Location sharing for safety, not surveillance. No overnights in our bed. We'll revisit everything in 3 weeks with Dr. Keller. Mara signs the bottom of the page like it's a contract and takes a picture with the date in frame. 7:12 p.m., February 10th. That night she shows me her screen and says, "Transparency, right?" I see DMs, innocent, mostly. Likes turn to words. Words turn to flirting in soft focus. She has a message drafted to someone labeled J. "A coffee," she says, "just to see." I nod, throat tight. I ask if J is a work contact. "Sort of," she says, and the word sort tastes like a frayed wire. 2 days later, I'm grading essays when find my pings and inconsistency. Mara's location sticks at a cafe she left 20 minutes ago, then jumps across town. Glitch, she says when I ask. Apple's drunk. I want to believe her. I log it in my notes anyway. 6:18 p.m., location mismatch. She rolls her eyes when she sees me typing. Alex, we said trust. I try to hold both, trust and data. That week, I keep saying yes to small things so I won't have to someday say no to something big. I go for a single beer with colleagues. I tell Mara I'm open to a first date too, with consent. She nods like a manager approving PTO. The next morning, a Venmo notification blinks on her lock screen from R. Pizza slice emoji, captioned, last night split, timestamped 11:43 p.m. We didn't have pizza. When I ask, she shrugs and says, we grabbed a quick bite after coffee. It ran late, sorry. The receipt in my head starts a new column labeled exceptions that keep multiplying. The first time a friend hangout looks like a date is a Tuesday. Mara says she's decompressing with Nina and B, low-key wine bar, home by 10. At 9:17 p.m., Nina posts a story. Glittering glasses, a crowd reflection in the window, a caption, girl math equals therapy. Tagging only the bar. In the reflections corner, there's a silhouette beside Mara that isn't Nina or B. The shoulders are unfamiliar. I take a screenshot before the story expires. When I ask later, Mara says it was the bartender and laughs. Friday, Tessa drops by our place with sourdough and that look that makes me feel seen. She waits for Mara to leave for a Pilates thing, then asks, Lo, are you sure about the friend clause? I say, we agreed, no close friends. Tessa nods slowly and chews the inside of her cheek. Good, she says, then keep receipts. I tell her I'm not a detective, I'm a teacher. Teachers notice, she replies. That night, I tell Mara I want to try my own first date, with consent, with check-ins, with honesty. She says, okay, like she's agreeing to let me upgrade my phone plan. We review our rules again, as if reading will make them real. I pick a venue I know well and text timestamps, as requested. She sends a thumbs up and a heart, and the heart feels like a parent's sticker on an A paper. At 8:02 p.m., while I talk about music with a woman I match with on a forum for local volunteers, my watch buzzes. Our neighbor just saw Mara at a gallery opening across town with friends. Another buzz, Jay, posts a story from the same gallery, Mara's laugh visible even without a tag, a mirror shape I can't unsee. I excuse myself to breathe and open our shared location. Her dot sits across town and then blinks out. When I get home, Mara curls into me, warm and chatty, and asks about my date. She forgets to ask when I stop believing the bartender story. By the next week, the group chat behaves like a courtroom with memes. I read the messages Mara screen shares to prove transparency, and the undertone is a verdict I can't appeal. Nina sends, normalize ethical jealousy, with a glitter gif. B writes, if he needs control, that's his work, not yours. Tessa drops a single line. Ethics are boundaries plus honesty, which gets no hearts. Mara texts me separately that I'm overthinking, that if the rules feel rigid, it's because I'm scared of growth. I answer with the plainest truth I can find. I'm scared of being humiliated in public. We take it to Dr. Keller. He says, accelerating while trust is wobbling is like adding passengers to a boat you're still sealing. He suggests a 1-week pause to recalibrate. Mara says, a pause will make it worse, and I watch her sell the room on momentum like it's medicine. Keller's gaze flicks to me. What do you need, Alex? I say I need the no friends clause respected without interpretive dance. He writes, no dating within the 5 closest. Mara chirps, of course. Saturday, we host a small brunch. Conversation is lab-coated casual. Nina asks me, so are you seeing anyone yet? I say it's early. She smirks. That's generous. Tessa's fork stalls midair. After they leave, Mara tells me I made it weird, that I could be more playful about this. I ask who's on her list to see next. She says, I don't have a list, Alex. I have feelings I'm exploring. That night, Venmo pings again. Jay sends Mara $11 with the caption You Bursies. Timestamp 12:04 a.m. A minute later, a DM slides into my request from a half-acquaintance. Saw your wife with a guy leaving Lark. Everything okay? I stare at the message like it's a quiz I didn't study for. I screenshot, save, brief. My phone lights up with a calendar invite from Mara, check-in plus consent, set for tomorrow morning. We sit with coffee and the calendar invite like it's a polite referee. I say I want a first date tonight. Simple, early, transparent. Mara nods, says she'll meet Tessa at a pottery class, then home. She repeats the rules like a pledge. I send her the name of the cafe and my ETA. She thumbs up reacts. I'm trying to trust a system that keeps turning into performance art. The date is gentle and ordinary. We talk about public schools and city parks. At 7:45 p.m., I text Mara, heading home by 8:15. She replies at 7:47. Great. Still at pottery, messy hands. At 8:22, a photo appears in our shared album labeled Spinning Bowls, timestamped 8 p.m. Tessa rarely posts. This gallery is from her phone. My stomach drops. Tessa's photo shows a room I recognize from the studio website, but in the corner, mirrored glass. I see Tessa alone. No Mara. I call Tessa a low voice. She whispers back, Mara canceled last minute. Everything okay? I hang up and feel the ground tilt. At 8:40 p.m., Mara texts, running late, clay everywhere. At 9:05, an IG story pops from Nina, a boomerang at Lark, clinking with someone whose sleeve is Mara's favorite blazer. The caption, spontaneity equals truth. My throat heats. I walk the long block home, repeating, don't explode, like a nursery rhyme. When she enters at 9:50, cheeks bright, she kisses me and says, how was your date? I answer, calm, and set my phone face up between us like a mirror. She notices the screen, flips it, and says, Alex, don't weaponize data. I say, then stop giving me a reason to collect it. The next morning, I audit my week like a ledger. I map timestamps against locations. 6:18 p.m. cafe glitch, 9:17 p.m. reflection silhouette, 12:04 a.m. Uberses, 8 p.m. pottery ghost. I write questions in the margin. Is this incompetence or choreography? I scroll Venmo public feeds because people forget and find Nina paid J for gallery snacks at 7:12 p.m., same night as pottery. Recipe for overlap. Snacks plus clink plus spontaneous truth. I DM Tessa. Can we talk? We meet in the park, and she's already angry on my behalf in that steady way that feels like a handrail. You're not crazy, she says before I speak. I don't think she's sleeping with anyone. I say, I think she's managing a narrative. Tessa nods. Narratives can hurt more than facts. I message B for a sanity check. B replies carefully. I think Mara started this to feel adored again. Some people can do open with data and kindness. But this is PR. B adds, I won't be part of a test. The word test knifes through. I ask, what test? B goes silent. I export our chats as PDFs to a private folder named Agreements, because I want a record that isn't a vibe. I take one last pass through IG stories and catch a slip. J posts a behind-the-scenes clip from a rooftop. Mara's laugh again, untagged, the city behind them. The timestamp conflicts with the check-in plus consent calendar. I screen record, save, breathe through my nose like a swimmer. At 11:33 p.m., Mara texts from the bedroom. Come to bed, teacher. I stare at the door, hearing my name as a costume. I lie awake rehearsing a sentence I'm afraid to say out loud tonight. The twist arrives disguised as kindness. Tessa asks to stop by after work with groceries. She brings hummus and a printed screenshot. You didn't get this from me, she says, placing it face down. It's a crop of a group chat, Nina, J, R, and Mara, where someone typed, let's be honest about what we already started. The date stamp is 2 weeks before Ethical entered our kitchen. A string of gray messages skates around names, couching things as energy and curiosity. But the implication is clear. At least one connection predated the rules. Why give me this? I ask. Tessa looks tired. Because you kept asking for fairness like a contract, and I can't watch you keep grading a play. She squeezes my shoulder. You can love someone and still say the terms are broken. That night, I ask Mara a direct question. Did anything start before the rules? She goes very still. Define start, she says. I tell her I'm not interested in prosecutorial definitions. I want honesty. She admits to emotional overlap, to a what-if conversation with Jay. It felt harmless, she says, until you made it into evidence. I laughed short. I made it into evidence by existing with a memory. By morning, my reputation hangs in our circle like a damp coat. Alex the cop, Alex the spreadsheet, Alex the fragile teacher who can't handle modern love. I print the list of rules again and underline no close friends. I add one line in pen. No tests disguised as progress. Mara reads it, jaw set, and asks if I still want this experiment. I say yes, but only if truth replaces choreography, starting today. I stop improvising. I start documenting. A private journal becomes a daily audit. Where, when, with whom, and agreed boundaries, mine and hers. I export chat logs into a single PDF and add a table of contents, rules, exceptions, conflicts, resolutions. I schedule a mediation with Dr. Keller for Friday, invite Mara and, at his suggestion, 2 witnesses we both trust. I choose Tessa, Mara chooses Nina. I email an agenda, non-judgmental language, bullet points, examples with timestamps. I include exactly 3 screenshots and a summary line for each. If ethics matter, clarity should soothe. The choice looms, confront now, or play along to gather clarity. Playing along feels dirty. Confronting prematurely feels like detonating a bridge we still need. I set one interim boundary. Until mediation, no hangouts with J, R, or B, and I'll pause dating too. Mara nods like she's humoring a child. Okay, principal, she says, and it lands like a push. 3 days stretch. We act normal in public. At home, we orbit in tight circles. Tessa sends a text that smells like rain. Proud of you for choosing process. Nina replies to the group chat with excited for radical honesty, and the triple exclamation marks make me flinch. I move my journal from the nightstand to my backpack. I don't want my homework graded. The morning of mediation, my printer jams on the last page. I clear the paper and stare at our names side by side on a document titled Agreements Revisited. I'm not trying to win. I'm trying to stop drowning in a definition of love that requires me to pretend I'm not gulping water. I lock the door behind me and promise myself I won't budge on the friend clause again. The night before mediation is Nina's birthday dinner at Lark. Not going would look like a plea, so I go. The table is curated, warm lights, clever captions in waiting. Phones out, then down. I sit between Tessa and an empty chair reserved for Mara, who is running a few behind. When she arrives, she's buoyant, camera ready, mic'd by confidence. Across from her sits Jay, accidentally placed, which is harder to swallow than wine. Small talk dances with sharp toes. Nina raises a toast to bravery. Eyes glittering at me like I'm a mark who should admire the magician. To Mara for leading with courage, she adds. Tessa's hand finds my knee like a seatbelt. The air thins when Jay says lightly, funny how rules can be so interpretive. I ask, interpretive how? My voice is plain. Mara squeezes Jay's forearm, tiny, a stage direction, and says, can we not? I'm almost out of oxygen when the waiter arrives with cake and sparklers. Phones rise. In the strobe of tiny fireworks, I see my life reflected. Me, the guy who believed a list could hold back a storm. During the chorus of Happy Birthday, Tessa leans in without singing and says, you're being set up to look controlling if you push tonight. I almost push anyway. I almost stand and declare dates and times like a human spreadsheet. Instead, I swallow the smoke and decide to let tomorrow's mediation do the talking I can't. Dr. Keller's office smells like eucalyptus and books that were actually read. We sit, me, Mara, Tessa, Nina. We agree to rules for the meeting, no interruptions, specific examples, good faith questions. Keller sets a timer, a teacher in his own right. I present the document, a slim folder with 10 pages, 3 exhibits, and 1 ask. Exhibit A, the 9:17 p.m. window reflection. Exhibit B, the pottery timestamp conflict. Exhibit C, the group chat crop, names redacted, showing what we already started. Mara's face goes soft then hard. Nina rolls her eyes. This is courtroom cosplay, she says. Keller raises a hand. Let's keep to specifics. I state the friend clause and ask if it has been honored in deed, not caption. Mara admits to blurry planning, to a pre-conversation with Jay before our rules. It felt harmless, she repeats. I ask how a pre-conversation with a close friend fits into no close friends. Nina jumps in. We were testing loyalty dynamics, okay? Seeing if Alex would trust the process. There it is, plain, a test wrapped in progress. Keller writes something and underlines it. Tessa exhales a tired, wow, that fills the room. I ask one quiet question. Was I ever meant to pass a test I wasn't told I was taking? Mara looks away. The timer buzzes. Keller says, we can continue, but I want to name what just happened. I slide one last page forward. A proposal for boundaries moving forward, signed or declined. Mara stares at it like it's a contract she can't caption her way around. Keller asks for clarity. I open my laptop and share a screen with the timeline. Rows of dates, columns labeled agreed, observed, exception, disclosure. I don't read them all. I highlight collisions. I press play on a saved screen recording of J.'s rooftop clip, the timestamp overlapping our check-in plus consent calendar block. Then I read Nina's line from mediation out loud. We were testing loyalty dynamics. Keller looks at Mara. Is that accurate? Mara wipes under one eye, smudging mascara. I thought if he could stay calm, we could evolve. The sentence falls apart before evolve. Tessa speaks for the first time in full paragraphs. You took your husband's good faith and turned it into content. You made him the only person not in on the joke. Nina sours. Oh please, Tessa. Keller's voice stays neutral. This isn't about shaming. It's about whether consent was informed. Then the other shoe finally drops. B, who declined to witness, sends a text to all four of us. 4 gray bubbles that unspool. I'm out. I won't cover for pre-rules anymore. J, tell the truth about November. The room goes still. November is 2 months before ethical. A month I spent grading late essays and learning how to roast carrots without burning them. J swallows and says, we kissed twice. It wasn't serious. The arithmetic is simple. Rule 0 was already broken. Mara says into her hands. I thought starting with friends would be safer. Tessa answers, safer for who? Keller clicks his pen closed. We need a reset or a separation. I stare at my own name on the boundary page and decide I'm done being the only adult. The aftermath doesn't bother to be cinematic. It's logistics and 1,000 paper cuts. I move to the couch for 2 weeks while we decide logistics. Then I move to a sublet with a view of a brick wall that feels like honesty. Mutual friends tree off their loyalties. The group chat splits like a cell. Some threads go silent. Others restart without me. Someone posts a vague story about controlling partners and radical freedom. Tessa unfollows Nina and texts me. You don't have to read their curriculum anymore. I see a lawyer once, not to fight, but to understand. He says, boundary orders aren't just for danger. They're for clarity. And I write that down because I'm still a teacher. Mara and I draft a living apart agreement with Keller's help. No contact after 9 p.m., no friend group triangulation. Financial bills split evenly until lease end. All disclosures written, not implied. I keep my head down at school, but word seeps. A colleague asks if I'm okay, and I hear myself say, I'm learning the difference between privacy and secrecy. Mara texts sometimes late. Apologies, regrets, a photo of an empty dining table. She says looks wrong without your papers. I reply in the morning with neutral sentences that don't ignite or reward. B sends me the full November text chain, no edits, dates, times, rooftop, predictions about how Alex will react. It reads like a script. When I finally sleep through a night, I dream of standing in front of a class and writing consent equals informed plus ongoing plus unmanipulated on the board, underlining unmanipulated twice. The next morning, I start packing books and label every box. Fiction, essays, receipts. Healing arrives looking like boring routines that don't have to be defended. I run in the mornings without narrating it to anyone. I start a pickup tutoring hour at the library on Wednesdays. I find a therapist of my own who doesn't know my friends' handles. We work on what I thought consent meant, green lights and stop signs, and what it actually requires. Shared definitions before ignition, no secret tests, no PR department. He says, open or closed isn't the issue. It's whether you both play the same sport. Keller helps us finalize a boundary agreement that reads like a decent syllabus. Contact windows. Disclosure formats. A clause about no friend group dating for 12 months if we ever reconcile. I add one line I wish I'd understood sooner. No experiments without shared authorship. Mara signs with shaking hands. We don't hug. She asks if there's a future. I tell her futures require math I can trust. Tessa and I get coffee and promise not to turn our shared outrage into intimacy. She grins, teacher's orders, and I feel the first clean laugh in months. I apologize for not believing her sooner. She says, it's hard to hear a bell while someone tells you it's wind. We sit in quiet, and it isn't empty, it's oxygen. I move my last box into the sublet and set the printed rules in a drawer like a museum exhibit. That night, my phone is dark by choice for the first time all year. I used to think dignity was a tone of voice, calm, measured, the teacher who never raises it. Now I think dignity is a boundary held when you're offered a performance in its place. If I could send a note to the February version of me, it would read, don't confuse openness with a brand campaign. If someone loves you, they won't ask you to pass a secret test to earn your own marriage. Consent isn't a caption. It's a contract you both keep renewing, especially when it's inconvenient, especially when no one is filming. A hopeful image. The library on a Wednesday at 5 p.m., a kid sliding a dog-eared paperback across the table, asking if stories can teach you how not to make the same mistake twice. I tell him yes, if you're willing to underline the hard parts. Practical takeaway for anyone watching. Write the rules together, then act like your name is on every page. Don't date inside circles where the social fallout can be weaponized. Export your receipts not as ammo but as anchors. If someone insists confusion is growth, get a second opinion. And if progress feels like humiliation in slow motion, you have permission to step off the ride. I don't know yet if Mara and I will write another chapter or close the book. I only know the next chapter won't be graded on how well I pretend,